thank you again, Nina, for doing this webinar for us. And actually, this is the second time around. We had a very good attendance about 10 days back when you shared your insights on digital transformation journey you've undertaken at Merck. And I'm sure Andrew will really benefit from hearing from you and also from the rich interaction, which will definitely follow from here. So before we get started, maybe a quick round of introductions is in order, specifically Andrew and Nina, for you each other. All of the others are obviously known to everyone. So Nina, did you want to go first and then perhaps Andrew as well?
Sure. Hello, so my name is Nina Belly. My title is Global Medical Affairs Digital Transformation Lead at MSD. So this is the company Merck called in all ex-US and ex-Canada territories. I'm working in Merck forever and since 12 years, since 12 years in medical affairs. And yeah, we had that journey. Yeah, and I'll talk to that. Thank you.
Great, thanks Nina. This is Andrew Fariello at AstraZeneca, and I lead the medical capabilities teams in oncology on the global side. We don't have a digital role or function in medical affairs right now, at least not in our shop. It's areas where the different functions are looking at things individually, but there's lots of talk about hearing your experiences.
Thank you. Okay, should I get going?
Yes, please. Thank you.
So, and I'll put this on large. Yeah. So, so basically then this is an exclusive session for Andrew, and I want to convince you today that medical affairs has a special and very independent role to play in the digital transformation of a company. What is the benefit for the society and how we in medical affairs advance on this journey. And transforming activities like scientific exchange, medical education and information. And I hope you will be able to compare this a bit with what you are doing. But before I start, I want to know your opinion. So what do you think in your mind, and perhaps not only in your company, is the biggest gap for a digital transformation today? Do you think it is because a strategy is missing? Do you think it's because we don't have enough resources? Is it about capabilities, leadership support, organizational culture? What do you think is the biggest hurdle to transformation?
I don't know if I could point it to one thing. I think the strategies are emerging, but they're not, at least in our organization, have not yet been well defined. The capabilities, I think, vary by function, and certainly when we look at our world in medical, I don't think we've had the digital capabilities strong enough. We have people with a lot of traditional ways of doing things, so they know the need, but it's knowing where to take it and go. I think the organizational support is certainly there. The urgency is certainly increasing, but knowing how to take the steps in the right direction is where I think we struggle.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, I agree. Let me a little bit show you this journey. Then I'm starting with a physician, like the oncologist. It's Dr. Smith. She's very well educated. She knows her job, but she has to have the oversight about many different therapeutic aspects like guidelines. She needs to know all the drugs. She needs to know all the trials and find the best treatment for her patients. And also patients have high expectations in terms of, you know, the exchange they can have with her. So I guess you would also say that she's extremely under pressure in terms of time, and that the patients expect a lot from her. So let's think about typical situation that she might encounter, right? She would perhaps have to know what AEs this patient might have for the therapy that she is going to prescribe. She should have been at the important oncology congress but unfortunately her daughter got sick and she couldn't attend it, so she needs to update herself on the Congress outputs or outcomes, and then she wants to engage with an MSL, and she has a burning question, and the MSL didn't give her a sufficient reply. So how can medical affairs help her on all her needs? And I think we can give her relevant information and education. It needs to be personalized. It needs to be engaging, more engaging than what we did in the past. It needs to be in time, bite-sized, mobile. So I would postulate the only way to achieve that is via digital. And thinking about the medical affairs function as, where do we start? At least in our company, I think we have traditionally not been a front runner when it comes to multi-channel or digital. We know that our colleagues from marketing embraced this far earlier than us, because also they had always more resources than we had. So we are an emerging function, and perhaps not have had the right attention in the past. Also, we were traditionally going to the physician, talking to them in a face-to-face setting. This would lead to one MSL being very knowledgeable about all the details of that scientific leader and what he is interested in. If you are lucky, you might see this in the customer relationship management tool, but often it also just resides with this individual. And then, of course, I said it already, like we were not using a lot of digital tools. And similarly to the entire industry. And so we have some way to go here. So I like to think about medical affairs as a sleeping beauty under pressure, because we are more and more solicited. We are often more requested to take on more important aspects of the work. Our work is becoming a critical component. We need to do much more communication and a larger focus on value demonstration than in the past. Our customers have higher expectations in terms of digital. They compare us to, their consumer world, which is fair. And then we have so-called e-patients, that are patients that are already informed before they go to the physician, and they might rate a physician publicly and give them stars, and make comments in social media about performance. So I think we have really we have quite some pressure, and we need to awake. And still, I think that medical affairs has a really very important role to play, and the value we bring is in the non-promotional dialogue. We know a lot, and it's a peer-to-peer dialogue, so from specialist to specialist. Our people always need to have credentials and high credentials. And this also results then in far longer airtime with a scientific leader, and more discussion that is also more focused on the clinical reality, less focused on the product usage, or not focused on the project usage. And therefore, I think we have very different and diverse insights. And we also dispose of our own channels, which in the past perhaps were not so much the most sexy channels, like the medical information channel, but there's a high volume ongoing, and we could leverage this better. So and I'm gonna, perhaps the first thing is I'm stopping here and ask if there are any comments from your side, Andrew.
No, it makes perfect sense.
Good, thank you. So when we started our journey, which was in 2017, the first thing of course, the first step that you do is like, what is the purpose and what should be our roadmap? And so we wanted to be clear upfront to think about what is it that we need to transform. Why do we want to transform, and how are we going to do that? And thinking about these aspects, think about digital as an enabler and not as a target or objective in itself. Not having digital a side strategy besides another strategy, and think not about your own functional area only or a product only, but a value chain, an entire organization and company. And so first we thought, okay, how can we generate value through digital? And we came up with this, perhaps quadrant, which where we think that we can generate through 4 sources of value. First of all, very important to engage scientific leader, patients and payer with personalized experience with new channels or a channel mix, then automating end-to-end processes, then deciding based on deep insights and real-time integrated data analytics. So really base our decision less on the gut feeling of a few MSLs with whom we don't even talk, because the higher we are up in the organization, the less we hear that. And then this partnering piece is really co-develop and implement digitally enabled health solutions that are aligned to stakeholder needs. And here's this piece about we are no specialist in that field. And there is a lot of possibilities to work with academia and companies in this digital space, from which we need to learn. So really thinking about these 4 sources of value, and just to say that they are not exclusive. They might be overlapping, like you might combine this engagement with the automation. And once we have thought out, this, we looked how we could apply it to our core activities. And we were thinking, our guiding principle was, what are areas where we have strong levers and can demonstrate our impact faster than in others, and through speed or the lever. And our question was not so much what to do, but where to start. So you have an overwhelming pool of thoughts and ideas and possibilities. And we were really thinking, okay, which area do we have a good, let me say, economy of scale, or where do we really can demonstrate fast high impact, either on the customer satisfaction, or also perhaps the efficiency piece. And where really, and what is it, which areas do we control? Because there are areas in which our commercial partner has been also active. They are not exclusively medical affairs a task, like for instance in Merck, the medical education is also done by our commercial functions. And so we said, let's not go in there. So from the beginning, we set different bigger concepts. And one of these bigger concepts was the digitally enabled MSL, The other one was the concept of the medical review, and then also the medical information piece. So just starting there and then working with pilots to change something. I had a global role, but what was at the same time working with our pilot market. So we had a declared pilot market for MSD, which was France, where this was the digital market, pilot market for all divisions in Merck and MSD. And we started with them because we think that the innovation or the best innovation starts with a concrete issue or opportunity at the customer level, and here the healthcare provider or the patient. And although we developed the strategy from top down, we see that the local affiliates are an important source. They have far more good ideas and understand also where we can make a bigger change and where we need a solution. And our aim was therefore also to allow bottom-up innovation while giving, guidance from top down. So we are not inefficient, or they are deviating from strategy, so we get dispersed. And this is pretty much this yin and yang. I had a lot of discussions with the global headquarters, what should we allow or not. I'm a big fan of giving countries a lot of room, as long as they keep us updated and we can follow them along the journey, and perhaps they can also help us. So let me now describe a little bit more concretely on which kinds of projects we are working or have been working. And the hooks here, the check marks, they show how well I think we are underway in these areas. We work quite a bit on this engagement automation piece. I think we have a gap in the decision piece. We are now working more in that space. And also here we have good initiative, but it could be far more. These initiatives often start from a therapeutic area perspective and not so much like, more a general activity of medical affairs. Like we say, in vaccines, we need to talk, or there is a problem with whatever. And then what could be a solution for that, and how would this be digitally enabled? So in this space with engagement, we worked on the MSL piece, as I said, digitally enabled, and MSL working on pilots for remote engagement. Of course, also building the foundations in terms of customer relationship management tool, having documents accessible all the time, and then pulling data from that to go into to basically fuel the decision piece. We worked also on the medical information piece. We built in France a website with automation where we basically put the most frequently asked question situations, which were, for instance, questions on stability, or in this case, the medical affairs or the primary intake was also done by this team on availability of stocks. And we had a website there where you can self-service yourself. We also worked on a medical review piece, for instance, on a tool to check to make fast screens after the fact, if all the changes that were requested are really also done, to have this visually checked digitally. This project, for instance, failed because technology was not ready to do that. We are working on business intelligence aspects with a tool that looks at analyzing the insights and bringing all sources together from MedInfo, from the customer engagement piece, but also from the advisory boards, summaries. And this is also and I'm talking now really pretty much about pilots, right? We are not yet there that we have, how to say, very advanced digitalization overall. We're just trying to, learn as we speak, and we are, guiding this experimental phase. As much as we think of digital in technical system, the shortcomings are often in the organizational culture, and they are the main barriers. So we have a lot of silo thinking. We had it before already. It's not changing here. There is a fear of risk, especially I think our industry is not very experimental in terms of the activities. Then really also aligning on a single view of the customer is sometimes a problem, especially when you talk with your commercial colleague. Do they have, we work in isolation or not enough together. So this cultural piece is a huge thing. And although, as you said at the beginning, Andrew, that you were saying, yeah, we have support, there is still this feeling of uneasiness and, what exactly to do. And normally we know what we are doing. So this experimental phase is sometimes really, how to say, feel irritating for the company employees. Just stopping here before I tell you a little bit more about our action. Do you have any thoughts or questions?
I guess the reaction I have to the previous slide as you were going through the examples, it seems as you were embarking on a number of things, like that's a fair amount of pilots to really be doing almost simultaneously in one location. And is that kind of a normal approach that you take as a company? Which seems to me I would look at those pilots as kind of an all-in in one location to try to see what bubbles up or sticks, as worth doing, versus trying one or two things or spreading them out across wider areas.
Yeah. So and that's a fair point. So the first thing we had to learn is what is going on where, because we were not fully aware what is South Korea doing versus, let me say, the Baltics or something like this. We built, and I'm coming a little bit to this piece here, which is this one, how we really guided our countries. It was already a fact. I mean, digital was not invented, or digital is quite some years there, and the countries are already active. We didn't have like a strong, how to say, guidance or control of that. So one of our measures was really to first to have an inventory of digital projects, to share best practice, but also that they surface at the beginning. And so we built that, we have that inventory, and we have like, we started with 50 projects, and they might be in different phases of innovation, like, you know, ideation, prototyping. Do we have a proof of concept, and are we then expanding and scaling that to the global level? And I think we were until recently pretty much in this prototype, and then we have asked the countries to really go through an advisory and a review board, so we get a better sense of really what is ongoing. And that helped us to really see also initiatives that were not known to us, right? We constantly discover initiatives. Like one recent one was on finding off-label language in the review of in the slide review for medical education. So when we have external speakers, we are looking for off-label language in the decks. And so sometimes the teams have to review, I don't know, 100 of slides. And this is a lot of work. So the team worked on an, you know, digital tool to discover off-label in product relation, and then would basically just select these slides and make them available to the reviewer. Instead of 100 slides, you look at 3, and you can do it in, I don't know, 5 minutes or less time. And we were, you know, we were looking at the proof of concept. So we have a governance installed and a project where we really see what they are doing. Scaling things, we do only very few. And we are just currently in the process of debating scaling 1 or 2 projects. And this comes then higher up here, right? It becomes a global project. It gets a project management lead, and, you know, it's basically better accompanied.
On this one, Nina, if I can just ask, is this something where you, as a global organization, kind of give a topic out and then try to identify what's happening local on that topic, or is it more of an organic seeing what's bubbling up from the markets?
Yeah, the latter.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And Nina, this is Mary Alice. Just to clarify, so all these projects, you know, the pilots, I should say, they were done in multiple countries after your assessment of who was doing what. Is that right? So
no. So basically, we built. So the first step was basically to build a team of enthusiastic medical affairs people who wanted to engage in that topic, right? We built a global medical affairs digital team, and they were our eyes and ears in the markets and regions, and they were the ambassadors for this initiative. And so with them, we told them, okay, if you're responsible for Latin America, can you let us know what are the digital projects in Latin America? And then we built our best practice sharing, and they started to enter these things. We were asking them certain aspects to describe the project, which is quite an effort. To have people like, you know, adhere to, okay, what is the customer solution exactly? What is the technology? How did you have a proof of concept, etc.? So we gave them certain templates to fill out. So we get a uniform reporting. Which area is this addressing? What is the outcome? You know, can you scale it? Is there something to consider? So we didn't have like 20 countries doing the same thing in the pilot phase, but we had quite some different projects from different countries. And when we see, okay, the team discovers, oh, we are seeing that country A is coming up with a chatbot initiative on the MedInfo, and country B is doing the same. But the one country, let me say, is China, and the other one is Germany. We compare them and start to, we look how much they spend and think, do we see synergies, and can we drive this forward as a global project? Okay, does it respond?
Absolutely, but you would have multiple countries, each doing their own pilot that you've coordinated. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Can I just ask one other quick question? I mean, it sort of goes back to one of your earlier slides. It said, there's so many different areas within medical affairs that you could pursue, and then you chose some had a little more challenges than others, like medical review. But my question is, what project resonated the most with maybe your commercial or enterprise-wide leaders? Was there one that stood out to them, that's sort of like, wow, if you could get that going, that would be great?
So the gap which we have, where we have our own silo at this point in time, is really to have also on a global level an aligned approach. In country, we have very tight relationship between the commercial partners and our medical affairs department, and they have in commercial something they call a center of excellence for digital, which is better staffed than our little team, because I'm working with an assigned team in this D team. The commercial is not really interested, on my experience. The topics that would resonate well with them is on the engagements, on the digital engagements with healthcare providers, be it on the digital MSL or also having our websites. You would also smile, but also the medical review is something that, they want to basically also reduce resources and would like to reduce also time spent on the review. And we are, of course, I guess this is also a trend via digital or triggered by digital, is that the review times of complex websites or tools might even put more resource pressure on us. So we heard them all the time saying it needs to be faster, and we want we want it quicker and less costly. But I think we are not yet there.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. That's it.
You're welcome. The last piece on talks here to this, we called it GMA Agile. So this is about this very different approach from the conventional approach, agility. What does it mean, and what does it mean for medical affairs? And we built something that we like a train the trainer module. We went with our team, so we had work streams in the D team, and we said, okay, one team will focus on agile, what does it mean and how can we do it? And so we built a 2-day course, train the trainer course, where we went then into countries where you basically start with a team in medical affairs and you sit them down, you explain how you work in agile, how you develop a digital project, what is the customer journey, what could be interesting touch points like the one with Dr. Smith. And at the end of this 1.5-day workshop, you have basically, sketched out some few ideas about digital solutions and this is like the beginning. And you tell them about, you know, the reiteration and these quick circles and the minimum viable product, and you know, that you really need to dive very deep into the customer experience and all these things that are connected to that. And I think, Andrew, you were also saying that we do not have people who are trained in that. So you are so lucky if you find somebody who can do medical affairs work, but that they have a background in IT, programming, whatever, Scrum masters. It's rare. So we needed to establish this culture overall, especially in pharma, where we are so how to say, we are so used to have long development circles also in our own activities. So that was really quite impactful when we went to the countries, because after these workshops, they were really also inspired, and they said, wow, we come up with, I don't know, 15 ideas what we could do, and then they would drill them down and then perhaps go away for one country with one cool project. Good. So I really, it's important for me that you understand that this is a journey. It's quite a long journey. And in the first Sleeping Beauty phase, from getting from a Sleeping Beauty to this super girl, we need to first lay foundations, and we had to put first foundational integrated system for MedInfo, for customer relationship management. This was not yet a done deal. We talked about the country pilots, and then also about this building the culture and capability, a lot of communication, as we also had a work stream in the digital team working on the communication, and we were highlighting pilots in that communication and the opportunities with these new digital solutions. And so now I would say we are at this point in time where we are, you know, starting more global, or we're starting to build plans for omni-channel engagement platforms. We will have more advanced data analytics. We are scaling some of the country solutions. So we are now working concretely on a chatbot for MedInfo. And we also start to have assigned digital roles like Scrum Master or Digital Manager in larger countries. And we request background in that, because we don't think that you can achieve the cultural change. You know, we have that, you know, millennial, non-millennial dilemma here. And, you know, we need to overcome this by bringing in a diverse workforce. And so working towards the super girl or superman is really then if everything would run and everything was integrated. You know, we want to work towards this ideal state where we have again Dr. Smith, and so she has perhaps modular automated self-service tools which she can access not only on the website but also with her app. You know, she could have a quick call with the MSL, a remote call. I mean call, I don't need to say sales call, right? In exchange. She would have access to some platforms. Also, we work quite a bit on, you know, assessing needs for medical education, but that's another topic. And then, you know, you name it, from all these activities that we do, you can do so much more. We didn't talk about review, but, you know, if she had access to a digitized patient recruitment or also already outputs. So, you know, quite some work to get this happen, because if we are then, you know, we know she can access this, but we also know what she would access. So I'm concluding here. That's my last slide. Is I kind of in this journey where I think we are in the middle, and this is really an interesting discovery. Of course, when we serve this physician better, we get better patient care. We might also discover some opportunities for a new business or new areas of work. But also what I see a lot of value is that we have really more engaged employees, because it reflects their reality. We have a younger workforce. They need to see that we are not old-fashioned and that we are working in a more digital world and integrated world. I see a strong east-west gradient in terms of, the adoption. In countries where you have younger workforce, everything comes pretty natural, and they are also more easy at launching pilots, like our colleagues from China and Japan, South Korea are really pacemaking compared to the others. And so I think what I like very much about this area is that people really want to contribute, and they are enthused about the opportunities and feel that this is their world. And so this helps us to be, diverse, inclusive, and digital. So that was, I think digital is an enabler and a common denominator in support of patient care and health literacy. And I don't even talk about the patient piece here, which is also huge. So that was what I wanted to present.
That's great, Nina. Thank you. I guess one thing we didn't talk in depth about, but just curious, as it relates to you securing the budget for this, is this something that these were within all the various tactics and projects that already went underway, that the teams determined budgets to take them digital, or did you, as part of these pilots, did you all secure like a master kind of budget in order to try all these different initiatives? What was kind of the approach from that standpoint?
So in the past, this was mainly budget coming out of the countries, but now as we get us better organized, also on the capability piece, we are ensuring that we have a global budget for these initiatives.
Good. This is really inspiring to think about how we could approach this in a little more systematic way than the way we've been doing it thus far.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the struggle, right? You can do, I think you need to select some areas where we really want to make a difference. You could be, diversified, like, you've seen these areas where people say that we need to do something that is, of course, on the engagement piece. But you could also say, okay, perhaps we see a lot of value in working. I don't know how much you do on the, the trial piece, right? Do you do, I don't know, in Merck it is a different department that is tasked with real world evidence and the phase 4 studies, right? But it could be that you say, okay, there's an area where we see opportunities. I think it's really selecting some few areas where we think we can make an impact. And what I'm reading also everywhere is it's more important to really have the customer feel that, that you're addressing his needs compared to the efficiency piece. I think we go by default in this, often in the digital transformation, into the efficiency, on the efficiency side, and we saw already very quick reactions from also our commercial partners. Okay, now that you have that website, how much money do you give back for right?
Yeah.
And I think it's wrong because it gives the wrong signal. But it's really, if you have these two poles between, you know, how can you have the customer really feel the difference? And, you know, do I do efficiency gain internally? I think I would rather choose the second one, which is, of course, the bigger difficulty, I think, to set that up. And I think I just recently saw again research on, you know, how many companies really fulfill customer needs and are rated highly by scientific leaders on, you know, the difference they make and their experience, and it's not many, right? And we are not yet there, so this is a self-critical piece. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Nina. It was it's a great overview. Andrew, did you have any other questions? Anything else you wanted to mention?
No, I really appreciate you taking the time to share all this information.
Yeah, no, I think it was a great overview. You know, it's the second time I've heard you present this, and each time I come up with different questions and different thoughts. So it's really interesting, and I think it'll be great through the council to continue to hear how things evolve. You know, where do you go from here, especially on the what do you bring into global, and then try to implement on the global scale, because right, that's a whole nother aspect of the journey, taking it from country and pilot. But congratulations on such a broad pilot, so many different areas that you've been exploring.
No, I must say that before we did that, we didn't have like such a structured approach also, and it was just by random. Like, so, you know, our head of medical affairs would go into a country and then he said, did you know what Japan is doing? And you need to go there and see it, kind of. And so we really got a good sense, and this is focusing the organization also to talk about these things. We have worked on creating digital innovation awards within medical affairs. It's all not rocket science, right? You just give a space where you talk about this and think about this, and it comes up as a topic more and more. And then it also you know, it comes to the global functions, and they are like, you know, you're saying you come from GMA capabilities, and in our company we didn't have like a very true overarching GMAC capability organization before. But I think with these measures, we give them food, we give them all the knowledge what they need to know from countries, to really think about what can be our next steps in innovating medical information. And so we just need to find these pockets of innovation and bring them together. And then it's like, Mary Alice, you are saying, and I get this, is kind of in how many activities can we engage at all, right? And I'm very ambitious on this one, but I also, you know, need to adapt my expectation, and, you know, I'm always unhappy about the budget. So it was me, like, I would of course invest far more and do far more, but we need to make smart choices.
Sure. Well, that sounds great, and look forward to continuing to hear about the journey. And thank you so much, Nina. Really appreciate it. And thanks, Andrew, for joining in. And we'll look forward to continuing these member-led webinars in the coming weeks.